fun.
That's right. Thank you, Chief.
This chief is making us late. Calling the North Pole City Council meeting to order on March 20th, 2023. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Mr. Keller?
Here.
Mrs. Clack?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Skips?
Here. Primer is absent.
Skips. She
Oh,
called
Skips.
Skips.
Oh, sorry,
Mrs.
I'm
Welch?
confused.
Mr. Jacobson?
Here.
Mr. Mayor?
Absent. He is attending on behalf of the city at the housing seminar tonight in Fairbanks.
That would be excused then. right?
Excused. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, after which we will remain standing, and Anton Keller will offer our invocation.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before thee this time with gratitude in our hearts for this wonderful weather that thou hast blessed us with, for this wonderful city that we have an opportunity to live in. We thank thee for the opportunity that we have to serve this city. We ask thee to please bless us, that as we meet this evening, that we may be able to have thy spirit guide our thoughts in our direction, that we may help the city continue to grow, continue to come closer to thee, closer to each other in unity. And we say these things in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you. You may be seated. We now move on to the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Moved by
Welch.
Welch and seconded by Clack. Discussion on the agenda. Hearing no objection, the agenda is approved unanimously. Moving on to the approval of the minutes.
Move
We need to
approve
vote.
the minutes.
Need to vote
I'm sorry.
on the,
what?
we need to vote on the agenda.
I moved by unanimous consent
Okay.
since there was no objection.
Perfect.
I pulled a trick out of the card book.
Third book.
On the approval of the minutes,
I motioned.
moved by Welch,
Second by Clark.
second by Clack. Discussion? All in favor of approving of the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Did you want to go down and do a roll call on that?
You want me to?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
We'll follow the rules tonight.
Yeah, I'm down with unanimous.
Good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. All right. I am the Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Welch is gone, so this is, I'm a little bit rusty. I haven't sat in this chair conducting a meeting for quite some time, so I apologize if I'm kind of rough around the edges. We're now going to recognize our student of the month. decades ago, we decided that it was important that we recognize our students here in Norfolk, whether they attend Norfolk Elementary. There's so many that go unnoticed, and our children are one of our greatest assets, resources, and we need to sing their praises as much as possible in public. But it helps to fill our empty. We have a proclamation recognizing Jaden tonight. Jaden Farrow is a senior at Northpole High School and is the son of Melanie Adams. Whereas while Jaden is not involved in any designated official school activity, as Jaden maintains faith about his future, up to those that need. Jaden is a thoughtful person, always puts family first. Whereas the city of Northpole desires to recognize the outstanding students in the community. Now therefore, Michael W. Welch, Mayor of the City of Northpole, does hereby proclaim Jaden Farrow, the Northpole City Council High School Student of the Month for the March 20.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just, oh. We're leaving the phone there. There you go. And family members, you're welcome to stay as long as you want. You're not obligated to sit the entire time here, but you're welcome either way. I think we're out of time. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
A good one.
Huh? All right, go say goodbye to Hampton. There you go. All right, come here.
Yeah. Yep.
Are you gonna talk tonight? You're just making sure everything runs smoothly? Sure. All right, we're now at the next part of our agenda, which is the North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce update. Mr. Rixey?
I get about an hour for my report.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So yeah, I'm Howard Rixey, the Vice President for the North Pole Community Chamber. And first off, we want to thank the mayor for actually booking us on every other month for an update there. So we definitely have a lot to share with you and go with that. So I'll give you a copy of our talking points here, and it outlines a number of things here. But we just want to remind you that the chamber is really committed to giving people a reason to visit, live, and thrive in North Pole. Having said that, so some of the things that are on our agenda, we're focused on spring cleanup day. I mean, with all the melting snow right now, the yucky part of the season and everything else there. So cleanup's just around the corner here. We think it's May 13th. I checked the borough site there. There's not an official date there, but that's traditionally, and that's the day before Mother's Day. So from an activity perspective, our next event is the Spring Bazaar. So that's held within the Gavora Mall, and that'll be done in conjunction with the North Pole Lines Cruising with Santa car show and street fair. And for the benefit of some of the council members, if you're not familiar with that event, last year we had, the event goes from 11 till 4 and we had 5,000 people there. So anyways, something that's really new this year is this Alaska Speed Week. So the folks down in the Mat-Su Valley, they're all the different racing organizations and everything else. They came up with this idea of doing an Alaska Speed Week. So they're actually going to be leaving the valley and coming north. So they'll be having different stops at like Healy and whatnot in Fairbanks. They're trying to do something in Fairbanks. They'll stop in North Pole and then go on to Delta and then Toke. So, and it's just to celebrate the whole sport of racing. So, I mean, you got dragsters and stocks and all the different kinds there. So having said that, they actually wanted a place to show off in a race there. We couldn't accommodate them in North Pole, but what we will be doing is staging in the Govora Mall there, the North Pole Mall, kind of like a show and shine thing to show off all the different cars and whatnot. And then we're going to try to partner that with a food truck rally. So it should be a good event there. So that's June 13th. In that same week,
Now that is a Tuesday.
it is a Tuesday. So that whole week that these folks are traveling. So we just happen to fall on the 13th. So on Tuesday. And they're getting up the next morning and driving to Delta. So, and then the next day they're in Toke. So it's a real it's a big schedule for them. So anyways, and the last I heard was there was like 74 different members that wanted to participate in this event. So that's going to be a
Great.
big entourage there. So cool. Anyways, our big event that particular week is we've actually gone through the process of getting a registered or a sanctioned Kansas City Barbecue Society barbecue contest. So that Friday, we're going to have a kids barbecue that Friday night. Then Saturday will be a No Kidding KCBS barbecue contest. And then Saturday is what they call a state cook-off contest there. So again, we're going to stage over there by the hotel, actually in the field in between the hotel and the car wash and whatnot. And we'll have some food trucks there as well. And then as from a spectator standpoint, people will actually be able to buy what they call a People's Choice ticket for $10 and go around and taste all the different barbecues and choose their favorite and whatnot there. So again, another family friendly event to get people out and visit North Pole. Last year we did the firecracker run. That was the first thing at the request of the mayor. And that was on 4th of July. This year, we are trying to come up with a Christmas and July theme. So do things throughout the month of July. Having said that, we're going to do the firecracker run on July 1st. That's a Saturday. And we'll do the same route as we did last year, which means we stage here at City Hall and walk it or run it or whatever the case may be. We are happy to report that on the 4th of July, we will do the 4th of July parade. So we have not had that since, I believe, 2019. So, but we have 2 of our committee members there, or board members there that are taking that on and are committed to make that fun. So that just for your information there. So we stage over there by Attaboys in the Thai restaurant area. And we step off at 10 o'clock. And go down 5th Street, hit 5th Street to Santa Claus Lane, and then go through the roundabout right there by Pizza Hut and come back through in front of the Santa Claus house all the way back to the 5th Avenue. So that's our route. And that's always a fun event there. So so we're already starting the publicity of that there so people can get plan accordingly in that regard there. That does not take anything away from the Grange, the 4th of July picnic out at the Grange. So that will still happen. It'll just be usually the parade runs from 10 till 12, and then immediately following is the picnic. So that will happen. But the chamber, while we're collaborating on that, we're not the lead on that one. For y'all that don't know, but previously we talked to y'all about what we're calling the You're Not Alone wall. So this is, there's on your thing, there's a depiction of it. We're actually building a concrete wall that's in the shape of Mount McKinley. On both the bookends of it there, we'll have one shelter that will be like a loner library kind of thing. And then the opposite end is going to be a food closet, a food pantry. And our primary focus there really is those people in need, especially near and dear to our heart, is we have a number of homeless teenagers. And so this gives them just one more avenue to have food where they might not otherwise there. But in the middle of that depiction there is all these little placards, those red placards there. And the intent of that is we're going to work with all the different agencies or churches or whatnot that provide services to our residents here. So, I mean, I'm part of the North Pole Alliance. We have the Eyeglass Recycling Center. So we'll have a placard that actually says eye care on it, and there'll be a QR code for whoever needs that service to actually, dial right into that webpage and get that service. So that's going to be kind of a neat thing there to do. So, but we're still slated to finish that or start and finish that and unveil it in July. So that will be one of our July things there. So, and for y'all that don't know, so the intent of that is to go into the Terry Miller Memorial Park, in between where the kids' playground is and the barbecue. So in the grassy area there, if you would. So, anyways, so that's that. The Welcome Center, obviously, that is our big ticket item here that we're bringing to the city. So I just kind of wanted to give you the lay of the land of where we're at. So we've actually finalized the details with Matt Gavora on our lease. Again, that's a 30-year lease at $1 a year. And at the end of the 30 years, we have 10-year options for 10-year extensions and go that way there. So, but we've gone through all the wickets there. And now the lawyer just got to put the final print to it and we'll sign it. As far as the master site plan, so that was completed. That was donated by Design Alaska. And so that was done in January. And then as far as the construction plans go, we just received the 65% design plans. Those are completed. And we actually pushed those out for questions from the local contractors and whatnot. And we really appreciate Design Alaska because they're putting us on a kind of an accelerated schedule. So we expect to receive our 100% construction plans that first week of April. In the same note there, at the same time they give that to us, they're also submitting it to the state fire marshal to kind of help, again, expedite their approval on that process. So our what we anticipate is somewhere around April 10th, we're actually going to publish a request for proposal. We'll receive those bids from the different contractors. We'll evaluate them. And our intent is by the end of April to select the top 3. From there, we hope to be able to then give them the no kidding blessing from the state fire marshal and the final plans, along with, if you recall, our fundraising, we wanted about 80% to raise in cash and another 20% in kind. So we're going to give them a list, the most current list of all the in-kind services that have been pledged to us. So, and they'll be able to then adjust their bids. And from there, we'll actually be able to make our final selection. So as far as the cost goes, originally we were anticipating $600K, but given that it's a commercial building and everything else, so our best estimate based on input from Design Alaska at $434 a square foot is $1 million. So that's we choked up on that too when we did it, but it also gives us the necessary things. In terms of our funding, so far we've, that's in the bank. We've raised $150K. There's about another $25K that's in the mail. So about $175K total. In-kind services, we no kidding have pledges for about $80K. But we also have a number of verbals that say, yes, we will do it. And so we're in the process of getting them put it on paper. And we do anticipate that we'll meet that $200K mark. We're really excited because the Mayor Ward from the borough is actually putting a line item in there for $25K for the Welcome Center in the borough budget. And I did brief the finance committee on that a couple of weeks ago. We were also very fortunate because Mayor Ward, working with Representative Will Stapp, while they were down in Juneau a couple of weeks ago, they were able to actually submit a CAPSIS project for $600K. So God willing, that will go a long ways in the state budget process there. We also have a number of grants that we've submitted through, one through Rasmussen along with Habitat for Humanity. Lotto Alaska, they played our gaming permit there and they actually just gave us a check for $25,000 on that one there. So, and we have several others there. So we're confident that the fundraising is going as we expected there. But we're still doing a number of fundraising events here. So one of which that's on our thing is one of our members wants to lead up doing a masquerade wine tasting and hors d'oeuvres over at the hotel kind of thing there. So that's still in the works there. We don't have a date specific on it, but it should be in the coming months. The KCBS barbecue, all the funds that come from that will go towards the Welcome Center. And then, excuse me. And then in July, we're going to do a Christmas in July sit-down dinner, kind of celebrating the Christmas of past. So those will all be fundraisers there. In terms of executing the general contractor and the construction contract there, We'd love to sit there and pull the trigger on that in middle of May when we think the general contractor will be selected, but we will not do that unless we have all the funding. In fairness to the contractors and the other tradespeople and whatnot there. But we do hope to actually pull the trigger on it somewhere in that May, June timeframe there. That impacts our estimated completion, and we really had three options on that. One was to have a building that was completely enclosed by October, which opened up the door for a lot of like the apprenticeship schools and stuff. They're wanting to donate time and stuff, so they'll be able to come in the winter and do all the interior work. And along with some of the other tradespeople. So that's really amenable to their availability in that regards. And then do the actual, the exterior, what I call the exterior complex at the park, so to speak, and everything next spring. So that's one option. Another option is to, no kidding, have a complete building by October and then do the exterior complex again next spring. I think those are probably the two most realistic approaches there and estimated completions there, but we're really excited about it. And everybody we talk to says, one, we've needed this for a long time. And two, they're very excited about what it's going to bring to the community. So having said that, our monthly events, we try to do 3 regularly scheduled monthly events. So one is our luncheon. Our luncheon is always the 4th Tuesday of the month over at the hotel from 12 to 1. Matter of fact, you guys are going to be, the city update is going to be this month at March 28th. And that should be a packed room. There's a lot of people that want to hear that city update and all the different things that are going on in North Pole in this coming season, if you would. But for those people that don't or aren't able to break away from lunch there, we offer 2 alternatives. One is the second Tuesday of the month, we do a coffee with the chamber over at the hotel from 9:30 to 10:30. And then those that can't get away during the day, we have what we call cheers with the chamber from 6 to 7 on the 3rd Thursday. And so we rotate the different venues that serve liquor. This particular month, actually this week, is going to be over at 12 Mile Roadhouse. But we just rotate that out. One, you just get a little bit of exposure to those facilities there, but also give those folks an opportunity to rub elbows with us and hear all the things I'm just talking about right here. And get them excited about it. So as far as the luncheons go, yeah, so our next 3 ones there, like I said, this coming one in March is the city update. In April, a couple weeks ago, I testified and requested that the city come in and talk about the city council opportunities that are coming up for this fall, as far as election goes, and trying to educate the lay person as to how do you go about doing this election stuff and campaigning and all the rules and whatnot there. So we're really excited that y'all accepted to do that. And I think it'll go a long ways. That gives a person about 90 days or whatever to decide whether they're going to do it and plan how they're going to do it and whatnot there. So that sets them up for success. And hopefully we'll have some good competition for all the seats that are open. In May, we actually have 2 spotlights, if you would. So the 168th Air National Guard wing out there at Eielson, they're going to come in, talk about that unit, as well as all the different employment opportunities. So that's great. Along with that, we have a new university that just set up shop over at Eielson, the Walford University. And so they want to come out and be highlighted as well. And they're working on a ribbon cutting too, which I'm betting that you guys are going to get invited to. So that'll impact there. In June, we'll have Explore Fairbanks talking about tourism. So that's kind of what's on our plate right now. We try to keep busy. I don't know if we're busy enough, but hopefully you guys are pleased with the activity by the chamber. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Rixey? I do have one question, and that's regarding the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Is it going to be designed so it doesn't provide a visual barrier for the parents who are sitting perhaps in the gazebo or the picnic tables and the playgrounds over here, that wall won't be in
If you're-
between them?
Great question. So if I'm the playground and you're the gazebo, if you look over here at the 10 o'clock position over there where the barbecue is by that one tree, it's going to go in between that tree and the
Okay,
playground.
good.
So field of view is going to be right there. So
Perfect. That's just one concern I thought parents
yeah,
might have.
no, great question there. So, but that's where it's intended to go. And it's the flattest part of the park, actually. So, great question.
Anybody else?
You're right.
And
So I'm just kind of curious on the wall. Is that something that's going to be safe for children to climb on the way you're going to construct it?
Yeah. So originally we were talking about having the front be where all the placards were going to be and the backside was going to be a no kidding climbing wall. But we opted not to do that to reduce the risk of as from a safety perspective and all that. So yeah, people will not be able to climb out there. So
I'm just thinking about kids that are gonna climb on it no matter what you have it.
yeah,
Uh,
well, I guess kids
I
will be
mean, how
kids there.
tall, how
So
tall is it gonna be or?
so it's about 25 feet wide and eight or so feet. I don't know what the ratio is. They're about 8 to 10 feet tall.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. That was a pretty out of the box kind of thinking of how to deal with the big problem as far as homeless kids and other people that are in need in North Pole. We have a lot of service organizations out there that provide fantastic services, but you don't know about it until you're the one that receives it. And there's a lot of unsung heroes, and that's what this wall is all about, is to brag about and advertise those services there, but also get people to get connected with those services.
So how will the QR code work? You can scan it and it'll take it to that organization's
Is in the website.
website, or you'll be hosting all of that?
No, it goes straight to, again, I go back to my eyeglass recycling center, which so when you hit my QR code, it's going to the eyeglass recycling center's website. So you can get their appropriate contact for eye care or whatever the case may be. So we're assuming that all the churches are going to be on there, along with all the other different service organizations that touch North Pole. And some of those will probably come out of Fairbanks as well. So yeah, we're excited about that.
And also don't forget Mayor Pruz is a chef extraordinaire, so make sure you invite him.
Actually, he wants to be one of the judges for the
Good.
KCBS barbecue.
Good.
When I was on the radio show, he was very explicit about that. So
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rixey.
thank you.
That moves us on to council member questions of the mayor. I'll write down any of your questions and pass them on. And then we'll move on to citizens' comments.
Hold on a minute,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Jacobson. The question would be, since he's not here, the report for what transpired for tonight, for his meeting? The meeting that he's at?
Housing meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, that would be, the
that will
question.
be his report for
Right.
us next week
Right.
is and I'm sure everyone saw the advertisement about that. They're trying to get contractors, builders, military, the political leaders there so that there's a greater understanding of the need and what kind of housing and the timeline that they're facing and some of the incentives that the different municipalities are offering contractors. So Mayor Welch thought it was important that he be there since he's been he has been working with the council and also with several developers, and we had the ADA project. So North Pole is very interested in additional housing being developed in our community so that the new families arriving in Eielson can live here and not have a, overseas single assignment, whatever it's called,
Unaccompanied.
an accompanied tour.
Mhm.
Yeah. Did that answer your question, Ms. Clark?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to citizens' comments. We have a citizen in the audience. If you want to come up and introduce yourself and tell us about your new business, that'd be great.
Hi, council members. Nice to meet you. My name's Nee Soto. I am a resident of Fairbanks, but I come to North Pole a lot for business. My new business is a technology consulting firm. So I help public and private entities with their technology strategy, if everything is under the correct budget, so on and so forth, any technology questions, because there's simply a lot out there that we just kind of scratch our heads, myself included, of what does it all mean. I currently have a client list of some public entities Can't disclose exactly who they are, but I am familiar with city governments, their budgeting and technology needs, along with requirements and security stances. So that's me. I came by because I knew Mr. Jacobson was here, and to meet all of you and just say hello.
Hello.
Hi. And Nee was also a manager of Ampersand, which used to be Last Connect in Fairbanks. So he comes with a lot of experience in that field. So if any of you have any need of help, look him up. And the name of your business is called Technology Consulting Firm, or
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. The name of the business is CTR Consultants. So
CTR?
Charlie Tango Romeo, CTR Consultants.
CTR.
Yeah.
Choose the right.
I was going to think more about continuing technology review, but whatever you want it to be.
That's great. And thank you for coming up and for me putting you on the spot, but
That's all right. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
you bet. Is there anyone else who'd like, oh,
You happen to bring any business cards with you? May I? Okay, thank you.
all right, seeing no other residents, we'll move on to communications from department heads. Looks like Danny, you're in the first in the line. We'll just kind of go down the order that way, if that's all right.
I've got a few things. Thank you very much. So starting off with special topics, I'll start off there and then I'll cover the different departments. We're doing OSHA training, occupational safety hazard training today and tomorrow. We've got about eight folks within the city that are participating in this training, to include Ms. Clerk and the folks from both Public Works and Utilities. This is the OSHA 10-hour course, and again, it's part of our efforts to ensure that we do safe operations. That's one of the key items going on this week. We should be done with that tomorrow, but there are some more in-depth classes that are some of our Public Works folks may take, to include the OSHA 30-hour course. For building, we had discussions with Benny Williams about the Santa Senior Center, and we provided some information on previous inspections. The Senior Center is working to address issues with heat loss and other maintenance problems. And although the city does not do maintenance on that facility, we do help with historical records and advice. And then finally, we've had a few building inspections that have gone on recently, to include the North Pole Pizza Hut project. I think that the Thai restaurant is also nearing completion. Both of those efforts seem to be on track. And again, they're complying with city code.
Thai or Saigon, which would be Vietnamese.
I had heard this afternoon that the Thai restaurant was on track also.
Oh, the one that had a
Yes,
fire?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying they was.
All right. Again, I don't have details on that. That's but there has been discussion on that effort too. So, and again, the Saigon restaurant is also is on track. And I'm not sure where you want me to talk about this, but I do have a slide on city staffing and so if you Melissa, can you put that one up? So, and this was in the packet. We'll talk about city staffing first. The intent of showing you this slide, and both this slide and on the, again, in your packet on the backside has got the organization of the Public Works Department. We've talked to the mayor, and we're hoping to take a part-time Public Works employee position and shift that to a full-time position, bringing us to 4 full-time Public Works individuals. At the beginning of the budget cycle, we budgeted for 4 individuals, although we have not, certainly we've only got 3 right now, with 1 part-time. We looked at both the city growth and then the city requirements. We have picked up some additional requirements. One of the reasons why we brought on the part-time employee previously was because we did take both the cleaning requirements for both the police department and for this building too. We've got that cleaning every morning, or at least part of these buildings get cleaned on a periodic basis throughout the week. But again, with that staffing and with that additional the full-time public works employee, we're able to do that. There's a number of other things. I went and had the finance folks calculate how many hours of overtime that our public works department had last year. And this is just with 3 employees. Last year, they had 498 hours of overtime and 117 hours of comp time that earned, again, about 600 hours. And considering that most employees work around 2,000 hours a year, about a third of that is in overtime and comp time. The hope is that bringing on that additional employee provides flexibility, less need for comp time and overtime, and also gives our public works staff more of a balanced set for some of the things that they have to do. And I have listed some of our summer project list. We're actually still working on our summer projects list. We'd like to get that locked in as far as get a prioritized list, so things we can work on throughout the summer. Again, we also have the fall and spring things that are going on, but this is just an idea of some of the things that are out there. The other 2 things on here, public works summer hires, and I have talked to the mayor about all of the things on here, but public works summer hires, we are budgeted for, and we would like to go ahead and continue to hire 2 individuals for summer hires. And again, these are the folks that do beautification. They're the folks that assist with all of the things that keep North Pole beautiful and safe during the summer. And then the third bullet there is municipal government intern. There are some clerical things that we need help with, and both on city services side, and there may be other things throughout City Hall that need help as far as having someone come in and do things like digital scanning of things, some other clerical things that we just never seem to get time to do. At the same time, I briefly talked to this with some of my peers, but we haven't fleshed out the details on this. But the idea is that person 4 days a week is working, again, doing clerical duties and assistance, and then that other day a week they're shadowing one of the key leaders here, which would include certainly the department heads, the mayor, city clerk, and some of the other key folks, and possibly even a council member if you were agreeable to that. But the idea is potentially to get someone interested in working for the city of North Pole. Again, long term, we certainly would like someone that wants to work for the organization. This is certainly a good organization, and this may be a way to get folks interested. And at the same time, this is not something that's tied to a college curriculum. It's not tied to any specific institution. It is an internship. It's a paid internship, but it is for anyone who would be interested. So I'll leave those with you, and I'm not. Again, it's a little fuzzy whether these are for decision on your part or just for information. But I did want to make sure that you were aware of some of the plans that we're that we have for this summer, and then with the public works.
I do have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
So with our summer hires and with this paid intern, are these benefited positions, or are they just hourly employees?
These are just hourly employees, and again, we haven't fleshed out the hour. I think the pay is going to be the same as it has been previously. These are with no benefits. They are the exact same set that we had last year during last summer, as far as the staffing levels, and they'll be in late May, depending on when they get out of school or when they're available, through August, September timeframe, again, depending on when the city does not need their help, and when they either go back to school or they go on to other things. But these are just summer part-time positions, although they do work 40 hours a week.
And the trail sign reinstallation, are we talking about the Beaver Springs Nature Trail?
Yes.
It's my recollection when we installed that when I was mayor, that we had additional signs made, and they should be in storage somewhere if they haven't been used, so that you could.
They are, and we had some issues with vandalism, and so some of those were taken down, and that's one of the projects this summer is to get those signs back up.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Wallace?
I have a few other things to cover in other areas, but I'll take questions certainly
Just-
on the slides.
So just clarification, last year you had 3 summer hires, is that correct?
Yes,
And so you're just going to use one of those as the municipal government intern?
yes. And,
Okay.
and again, the idea with that additional public works employee is we'll maybe have a little bit less, or we'll have a little bit more coverage on the public works side. And there are other things that we can get after, city needs that we can get after that position.
So are we gonna have, is one of our summer hires gonna move up to the public works labor to make that full time? So you have 2 summer hires? Or we're gonna still have 3 and just increase the PW labor to full time?
We'll have 3 summer hires to include the 2 public works and the intern. So still 3. We've just, our part-time position will now become a full-time
Okay.
position.
Not here.
Okay. For other items for public works, we are soliciting bids for street sweeping. Last year, we paid about $18,000 for a one-time sweep of all the streets. We're trying to either decrease that cost or potentially look at other options. But the bids are due on March 31st, and that's in progress. I did have an interesting conversation with Jeff prior to this about some options for the city. So we're looking at all options to make it cost efficient and effective for the city. The police department continues to have problems with the North Pole Annex. They have been in contact, and we have been in contact with Rod Stanton, which is the builder, and he's committed to fix the issues there, but that won't probably occur until this spring. We also continue to push snow away from the roads throughout the city in anticipation of future snowfalls. I think this week you'll see snow hauling in town of those key areas that I sent out a map with the areas in the city that Phil Hubbard is going to get after. And again, that's in anticipation of the flooding that has occurred habitually here. And later on, we'll talk about the drainage survey and the $46,000 grant, but that is tied to that effort to reduce flooding. And then our public works supervisor, Cody Lauji, just returned from a well-deserved break. He's back now and engaged. Utilities operations on utilities continue to go well. And actually, we did get a customer comment that I'd like to quickly read. That Melanie Swanson received just this week. And again, this was feedback from a customer who had a water leak in their apartment building. She states, "I would like to pass on my appreciation to the water crew who came out yesterday to help with the water leak. Had they not shut off the water to the unit," and again, this is an apartment complex, "the water would still be flowing into my home because the contractor who contacted me today said they could not look at it until Monday." Again, we had a water leak on Friday. Contractor was not going to be able to come out. Again, this apartment complex has got certain restrictions on it on who can fix it and everything else. So again, water leak on Friday, and they immediately came out. She goes on to say that the information they had about where the shutoff was located and how it worked was invaluable, as even the homeowners association president was not aware of the location and the shutoff for the building. We also appreciate your help in contacting the unit owner to gain access to shutoff. Again, many thanks to the whole crew, and it made me feel like North Pole is a great small town, A+ on customer service. And that citizen feedback is very typical of what we get, but just another option or another example of your utility crew in action. Again, they were able to solve this problem, which would have caused thousands of dollars worth of damage had they not gotten into that apartment. And really, our folks are really the only ones that knew where the shutoff was for that. And again, that's very, very typical. Can you put up the sewer working group? I've got 2 other items, and then I'll move on. We did take a hard look at the sewer deficit that we have had and we've experienced throughout the years. We had a working group that included representatives both within the water utilities, from the finance, and some other key folks, to include the mayor on a few occasions. We looked at why we are losing money within the sewer. When you compare the revenue and the expenses, we lose about we average about $183,000 every year. What we opted to do, we looked at a lot of different options, but what we opted to do is to wait, which is still a very viable way forward, is to wait and see the results of the rate increase that went into effect on March 1st. Also wait for the next budget cycle and then reattack it. But what we've done is we have established a system to look at this hard problem and to see if anything can be done. We looked at everything from how to gain more customers to whether or not we should increase rates yet again. But what we opted to do, again, the group consensus was that the best thing to do right now is to just wait and see the effect of bringing in that extra revenue and see what we can do next. But we'll readdress this in the next few months. And then finally, milepost 351 overpass. And I don't know if everyone's aware that at 351 over by it's 12 mile. 12 mile the road 12 mile roadhouse. It's right next to there. There's again, DOT is planning an overpass in that area. The construction should start this summer and go through next summer. But we have to move a water main line based on that construction requirements. We are working with DOT and actually overseeing that project to make sure that nothing that occurs is going to get in the way of our overall water system. But that's continuing to go on. That's all I have for the group, and I know that's a lot, but I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Ms. Welch?
That's right.
So one of the options that you had here on your, excuse me, on your sewer deficit thing was that you could combine the sewer and water budgets. Is that not going to be a hard thing to do because they're supposed to be two different funds, right? Am I correct in that? You can't take and have it all combined because you have some that have water, you have some that don't have water, some people have sewer and water. But what about all the people who don't have sewer, who then would be part of that whole budget? That sounded like
And that's
like you're mixing buckets, and I think
well, and that's actually the exact conversation that was had in this room about potentially combining the budgets, because normally the water does make money. It's above water, and then again the sewer has problems. All of the things that you see on there are things that we discussed. We really don't recommend any of those. The ones on that single one is the only recommendation. So, Ms. Welch, you're exactly right. That is the concern that the group brought up when we talked about that. Is problematically, what do you do? It does sort of overshadow the losses of the sewer utility. So again, those exact words were said in this chamber.
Not a follow-up, a second question. This morning I was going off to work and somewhere around 7 o'clock, and I was very surprised to see a big dump truck blocking everybody near Pizza Hut. There were people coming out of the circle who couldn't get out of the circle. One car tried to back up and people took a second turn around and stuff like that. Not to talk about the other big dump truck that came barreling down from under the overpass and pretty much putting a cork in on the other side of it too. I think it was probably not our people. I think it was DOT doing that out there. So anyway, we can decree upon them that they shall not clog up our main artery coming into town, especially right when school buses were there, people going to work and everything else. They could certainly seem to do that maybe after people got to work or earlier in the morning.
Were they doing snow removal?
No removal.
They had a snow eater and a spout into the dump trucks. And I don't know if they had already done in front of Safeway. I think they probably did, and then came through that way. But they were right on that corner, and it just created a gridlock. Lucky enough, I was going northbound, so it didn't stop me, except for the couple of people who decided to go around the circle because they couldn't get down this way down here. So
What time was that?
would have been about 10 after 7 or so, maybe.
And it continued until about 8, because I know that when I came in about 7:45, we generally have good contact with DOT. This time they didn't really warn us. And I did send a note back to Ron Davis today about that and recommend that, hey, you know, you need to do it later. But if there is a more more effective action, we certainly can look at that. But we did bring up those concerns to DOT, and this year they have been in pretty good contact with us, but for some reason they just opted to do that without telling anyone.
Yeah, it was just, I didn't want, you know, school buses and everybody else gonna be in there. My first thought was, what is this big dump truck doing here in our thing? Because I know our dump trucks are not supposed to be going through the circles and using that route. They're supposed to take another route. And then all of a sudden I could see the snow eater over there on the other side. So yeah, thank you for getting on that.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Wallace. Chief Dutra.
I won't be that long. I want to congratulate Officer Bloom with staying in the back. He's off field training and now on patrol, and congratulations. Proud of him. So,
Welcome.
so he's gonna have a busy summer ahead of him, but we're glad to have him. We're glad he's off on his own. So I am due to testify tomorrow morning in front of the Interior Delegation on both the policy project and on the range project. So they've given me 15 minutes for both. So we shall see how that goes. A lot of material to cover in 15 minutes, but I sent them both presentations. Hopefully I can answer any questions they may have, but look forward to that. Lieutenant is in Anchorage for leadership training. Kind of cool. We successfully completed the entire department, did active shooter training. So we were very thankful to North Pole Elementary allowing us to use their facility. And we got everybody through half the department on Saturday before last. And then this last Saturday, I attended with the rest of the department. So pretty good stuff. And we're going to continue to do that until we get a pretty good training regimen in active shooter response. And North Pole Fire Department also sent folks to both days. And they got to do some of the practicals with us and watch how we do things and listen to some of the language. So it's pretty cool. We will involve the North Pole Fire Department personnel in future training in order to get what's called a rescue task force together. So that means the police officers and firefighters work together to enter into what's called a warm zone. After a shooter's been isolated or dealt with, they would then move medics with officers, escorts into help people that are injured, but it has to be in a warm zone, considered safe. So, but at least they have to go through that and they have to do things they're not used to doing. So it's a little outside their comfort zone, but I think the chief and everybody in the interior supports that function, and we have everybody working towards that goal so we can all get trained up. So
Is that different than certs?
yes. So the regular patrol would then escort single or two officers would escort a group of medics into a zone where there's injured folks, stand guard, and while they treat, triage, and evacuate, and then kind of be able to get injured folks treatment without having to wait till the entire building is cleared. So if we are pretty certain the shooter's isolated or down, then you can move those medics into those zones that we consider safe, and those would be designated by the incident commanders. And so it's the way of doing things these days. That way there's not 2-3 hours before someone gets to somebody who might be injured, which is of course where we lose a huge loss of life in these big events. So but it takes practice and it takes an ongoing training, because they go through people, we go through people, and next thing you know, everybody doesn't have the training, and so it's a constant renewal of that. So it's happening now, and we're all really engaged in making sure that the entire area gets this training. So May 18th is Police Memorial Day at the park, Memorial Park, and that's usually about 11 o'clock. Is how we're going to have that ceremony. So encourage you to come if you can. And we're on the final push for the speaker system in the new edition. We started that project when the new edition was built and we had the speakers installed, and we ran into some KGMP issues. And so now we're having to invest more money into that project in order to get those speakers so we can have the audio from the radios playing out throughout the building. And so if an officer's in a certain part of the building and the radio is not pulling in, they can hear it over the broadcast. But it sounds like a simple system, but it is creating some complexities. So we're trying to weed out those little issues and they're on top of that this week. So that's all I have.
So have you hired a company that's going to be working on your audio system, or are you just trying to troubleshoot?
They, yeah, there's a company that we're working with that's doing it. Yeah, they were involved in the building of the facility, and they're aware of what needs to be put in. And yeah, so
They're not the same company still working on our sound system in here?
no, no.
Answer.
Good to hear.
What was the time again for the Memorial Park?
11 o'clock. And that's going to be funded and paid for by APOA. So they usually do a good job supporting that.
Is that, but it's still during school, isn't it?
I think that's a Saturday, if I remember
No, it's
correctly.
not.
Maybe I'm wrong. Friday,
Thursday,
Thursday,
the 18th, you say? May?
19.
19 is. a Monday.
it would
be Friday. Friday, 11 a.m.
19th.
Yeah, 19th Friday. Yeah.
Friday.
I'm sorry. Anything else, Chief?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I was just entering it into my calendar so I wouldn't forget it. And that brings us to our Chief Financial Officer, Tricia Fogarty.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a lot tonight. We have been working on closing the year and to prepare for the audit. We've been working with that company, Altman and Rogers from Anchorage. We've had a lot of phone calls with them. I feel like we're going to work really well together. They've brought up some ideas that are good ideas that we can start to implement as soon as we're done with this year. And the other thing Michelle's working on the bank rec. I didn't send out financials because that's not completed yet, but we did get our statement from AML JIA where our investment is. The beginning of January, we put an additional 3 million over into that investment. Prior to that time, we were making about $4,000 to $5,000 of interest per month on the money that was there previous. With this additional money and a full month to look at, we went from that to $27,500. So
Wow.
this is a good move on our part.
Done a long time ago.
Well, the interest rates weren't that good a long time ago, but we did it at the right time.
Yep.
So, and if you guys have any questions.
So last meeting we discussed, or the one before, the increasing potential police officer wages.
Right.
From your standpoint, if we do the proposed increasing,
Right.
can the city cover it?
I talked with Chief Dutra. I reviewed what was already in the budget. We are down people. Every payroll that goes by, we're down more time. We don't have to make a budget amendment this year to make that happen. But he'll have to account for it in the next year's budget.
Okay, so financially, that
Right.
is not a
Right.
qualm that we need to.
Right. And initially, when he talked about it, I kind of, in my mind, I heard $4 per hour per step, but it's just $4 an hour for the first step. And then the formula repeats itself.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Also, in relation to that, what is the chance that we're going to have to do this across the board? Because I know the other chiefs and the other people might think that that should be necessary for them also to to have that. I believe that across the board, we did what was it, an 11%? By the time we changed everything, we just did an 11% raise for everybody. Plus,
Well,
we're
I don't
gonna
know
get
if it was for everybody, but yeah, there was the whole new system came out and there was an increase
So we had a
compared to the old
large,
system.
we had a large
Right.
increase in wages when we changed up that way. Plus, if we're giving $4 an hour, it's going to come up to more than 10% more raise from everything. Plus, there's going to be still be the 3% automatic.
No. It went for 3% for 10 years and then it drops to 1.5%.
The
It's not 3% for the whole scale. And they split the scales out, so they're all individual. I mean, it could come up. I can't, I can't predict the future, but yeah, it could come up. But the need right now is for the police department. I mean, it's everywhere. It's Fairbanks. I'm sure everywhere.
Right, so what you're saying is that $4 an hour equates to a 3% increase in the step one?
No, he's taking step one and he's adding $4 to it. And then the next step would be whatever that is times that plus 3% until it gets to 10, and then it drops down to 1.5%.
Okay,
So if you look at the 20, if you look at 20, it's not $4 an hour at 20, it's more like 6.
so will we be seeing that projected pay scale soon? Is that going to be introduced? Oh, you did send that to us?
It's at where we go. It's tracking after 10 years of 42,000 more than where it would be if we left it alone. So it's not-
And do we as a council need to take action on that to approve that
sponsors or the-
on an ordinance?
Yeah.
I would like to sponsor it. Mrs. Clack and Mr.
Keller? I always have to think Helen anyways, so
Anton Keller, who happens to be my doctor, who I just can't remember.
I did not disclose any of this.
You sure did. Sorry, Anton.
Not my fault.
So that could possibly be on our next agenda.
Yeah.
Anything else for our CFO? And our audit, do we have an engagement letter?
We don't have an engagement letter.
But they are working on it, or?
They're not working on it yet. They don't work on it until, I mean, they have done some things. They have a new computer system as well. And so they took our numbers and they put it through their new system. And we did make a big entry to kind of make things work. We have a little issue with the entry, but we're working that out. I did look back and we did get an engagement letter last year, but it wasn't till April. So I was
Okay.
maybe I thought it came earlier than that. So, but last year it was around April. And we are working with that new group to kind of give us some advisement, and they'll be with us throughout the year. I mean, if we have something new come up that we've never dealt with before, we can pick up the phone, call them, they can advise us.
And you said that's Parks in Anchorage, or?
That they're in Anchorage. Altman and Rogers is from
Altman and
Anchorage, right?
Rogers.
And they do work for small cities. They actually do books for other cities, but we don't need them to do that for us. We just really need some a guidance and consulting, right?
Anyone else? Mrs. Clark, Mrs.
so
Welch?
that engagement letter, is that for the audit as such?
Yes, it's
So
from,
it's not for the people who are helping.
no, it's for
and
the
all that stuff.
auditors. Right.
So is there any difference in the way you and your staff prepare for this audit, depending on whether that letter is there or not? I
No,
mean,
we're-
you're already
Right.
rolling
Right.
everything and.
We
getting-
did our last, we had another check come up that needed to be paid in 22, and that was cut last week. So now that's completely closed. We're not doing that anymore. So now we can roll with putting the revenues came in, we can accrue them back to 2022, and we can start tick and tying everything up and closing things down.
So this list of all these people here, these are then into the new year then, or is this?
Right.
Is this from the previous year that they haven't? submitted?
That's for this last month. So those are the folks of the business license ones. You'll see some of them are $5. That is a late fee where they maybe that got on March 1st, that got billed. So they probably paid their $75 after March 1st. And so they owe $5 now. So Sally is doing that.
But this doesn't go back to what you need to do for the audit. This
No,
is-
that's
this is
something,
next-
this
this
is
next
different.
year.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
And is this different than what we hired that AML firm to do for us for collections, for sales tax and stuff like that, or?
No, that's online. And so this is just in-house stuff. People that have business license in-house and sales tax in-house.
Okay.
It's not,
And how
it's not
about-
true.
How about delinquent utility accounts? How are they
Um,
collected? Delinquent utility accounts, how are they collected?
We build the individual 60, 90 days. If they're seriously delinquent, then we consider going to, we send it to for action. We also try to work with them and see if there's, extenuating circumstances, things like that. But we do, the final action is going to CSG and getting a confession of judgment.
Cook, Schuman and Gross Close is what you're talking about? CSG?
Yeah.
Cook, Schuman,
Yes.
Gross Close, the law
Yes.
firm, yeah.
What year did everyone get a raise? What
What's
year was
that?
What year did everyone get a raise? What year was that?
Everyone gets a pay increase the first full pay period of the new year.
No, like
11%.
our big increase that we did. Was it last
next
year
year.
or? 2 years ago?
That was last year, 2022, and the second pay period of 2022.
Okay, so the next one will be in 2025 when we look at it again.
Well,
Mm.
there's two things I think that are going on in 2024. If nothing changes, everybody will get moved up a step for the first full pay period in January. There's going to be a relook at it and compared to other cities, that was probably ongoing. The last time we did that, it took over a year to actually get things changed. We went through a committee, all the department heads with the committee members. And then we worked with that Dave Evertson from Municipal Solutions. And so it was a lot of ideas back and forth. We did bring some stuff to the council. They asked us to do better. We came out with a good product after that, but it's a long process to re-look at it.
I think Mayor Welch has referenced that group is supposed to meet several times this summer to evaluate the wages across the city, to look at CPI and how our wage package is keeping up with that and what kind of adjustments need to be made outside of that. We do have a 10 or 20-year scale, or is it 10-year now?
We have a 20-year scale now.
20-year scale. And so people can plan on X number of % increase over 20 years, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are able to pay their bills at that rate. And that's why this group, I think, was formed to look at
Mhm.
how do we keep our employees here and pay them an affordable wage other than what's just programmed in the 20-year pay cycle.
Yeah, Ellie's talked about it in her reports before, so I'm not sure when that's supposed to start, but after the audit, I think.
One more question.
Oh.
You said that your letter was in April?
The engagement that we signed last year was in the middle of April,
Okay, around the 15th?
probably.
Okay, can you double
That-
check that and get back with us?
Sure.
An email on that?
Yeah,
Okay, and the only reason why I'm asking is if by that date, if you don't have one, if you can send something to them by close of business that day. You understand what I'm saying?
well,
So on the 15th,
We've-
that's my way of just saying.
Right.
As a reminder.
we've already talked to them about it, and the Gary who was going to put it together was out.
Okay.
I haven't followed up with it.
Yeah.
Because I kind of stumbled across last year's and thought, okay, well, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's just a timing thing.
Right.
So, but we're getting things ready regardless if we have this letter or not. They are our auditors. They haven't told us they're not going to audit our books. So it's just a formality.
Okay. Thanks.
But yeah, I'll email you and let you know what date we signed it here.
Okay.
Ms. Welch?
Just a comment on that. I know the mayor was talking about that he had told him that he really wanted it by April 1st. So I think he's putting,
He wants the letter by April 1st?
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's what he was saying. He was trying to push him so that you wouldn't be left in the lurch or that. And then that was why I asked the question, is there anything different that you do? Whether you have that engagement letter in hand or not, because you still had to provide all the different things, no
Right.
matter whether they are the ones
Right.
or somebody else is.
Yeah,
right?
we
So-
know, right. In February, we provided them what we call confirm letters. So basically that's sent out to our banks, our folks we have loans with, our grants folks. And we sent that out to them. What they do is send it with their letterhead, with their envelopes, return receipt and all that. And so they had that well in advance. And I know that that some companies have answered it because the borough, when they answered the letter, they usually send me what they send them. And I've had that for weeks.
Thank you, Trish.
Huh? Thanks.
All right, that moves us on to fire department. Chief Heineken.
Good evening, everybody. First thing is, Captain Hamlin and I will be traveling tomorrow morning to Wisconsin, Appleton, Wisconsin, to visit the Pierce factory where the fire truck's being made at. I've been sending out all the photo updates, so hopefully you've been able to track that and see the progress. All of the major components of the apparatus have been kind of assembled, so it's finally looking like that fire truck that we want it to be. So this trip will be to go down there and just go through the entire specification and look it over and make sure that actually things are where they should be and that everything is on there that should be. And then I don't really predict, because of the photos are so clear, I don't really predict there's going to be any major challenges or problems with what they have currently built. So I think it'll be a pretty quick process once we give it that check off, that they'll be able to get it through the final stages and get the detail work done. We're looking at the last week of April. If everything goes as well, we would do the final inspection again in Wisconsin that last week of April. So just a month away, and they'll hopefully have it done. And then a little bit of ship time, and we'll have it here in North Pole. It's looking good. I'm getting excited.
They're not going to drive it up, are they? They're going to ship it by container and
I'll confirm this week how they're going to do it. The way we prefer they do it is they drive it cross country to the Port of Seattle area to put some miles on it in the lower 48. And that way, if a rear end goes out, transmission goes out, other problems, it can immediately get back to the factory easily. And then they barge it from there up. And the last one, the last several I've seen come into the interior went from Anchorage, then railed up to here. So it should be good roads down south. That is putting, I like to see 2,000 to 3,000 miles on it before it actually gets on that barge. Years ago, another fire department had an engine actually drive up through Canada, and they had a rear end lock up mid Canada, and it was a mess. So we don't want to do that approach.
no.
Moving on. So back in January of 2022, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Systems, we call them CMS, is how we refer to it. They require ground ambulance services to report a lot of data. It's costs, it's revenue, it's utilization, it's information about our run volumes. There is a lot of data that is compiled to do this reporting, and the reporting is mandatory, and there is penalty if we did not do the reporting. They actually would deduct 10% of our billing for next year's cycle if we didn't report by the deadline of May 31st. Chief Chambers was assigned this task and has just been phenomenal over the last month and a half, getting this together for the report. We did have a contractor that we went through, gave us access to the portal for reporting it, but their templates that they provided Chief Chambers, and then his hours and hours of finding our data to fill out these templates. A lot of help came from Michelle Petey here at City Hall, and then our admin assistant, Tammy Sherrill, really helped him out a lot. He's got it compiled. He's got the finished product to the contractor for them to review, And then hopefully in the next week or two, he'll actually have that submitted to the portal. So I just want to give all three of those employees kudos. They really worked hard. It's that mind numbing type of task where it's just data, 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 data. So Chief Chambers excels at that, it seems. So and that kind of carries into the next thing I'd want to report is we are looking into the SEMT, which is the Supplemental Emergency Medical Transport Program. This is a program that we've kind of talked about on and off for almost 5 years now. It was a long process getting the state to change some legislation so area state ambulance services could take advantage of. This is federal funding that when we take a patient to the hospital via ambulance and they're a Medicaid patient, we don't receive, our full billing by any means. It's a fraction of it. So there's federal funding available that supplements to bring us closer to whole. Once again, it is a lot of data. And luckily, the work that Chief Chambers did with the CMS data that he's just finishing, a lot of that's going to carry over into this SEMT program. So we're starting to work with that. Chief Chambers and I actually met with the contractor, is the same contractor we were using for CMS. We met with them via Zoom last week to kind of get the ball rolling. So hopefully by the next council meeting, they should be able to come back with some rough estimates of what type of revenue we might see from SEMT. And then the way they bill for their contracting service is based on a percentage. So then we would know costs for them helping us get through that this year. So that's a big step in the right direction with those two processes. So, and the last thing I have is just to talk about I hope you all saw the newspaper today. There was an article on the front page describing what we have on the agenda tonight for possibly donating Engine 24. The Newsminer did. It was a good article, but there was one part of it that was kind of misstated. So the article stated, I placed the replacement value of the new engine at $1.8 million. That came from my comments last meeting. So they were pulling stuff off of our agenda and they were looking at the minutes. And I wanted to make sure there's context here. The engine we have coming is not a $1.8 million engine. We paid $866,000 and change for that engine almost 2 years ago. That price has gone up since. If we were to reorder that same engine, it would just be over $1 million right now is what I figured. The 1.8 figure came from when I was comparing when we sold our old aerial truck, Ladder 21. So aerials are a totally different animal. They're very, very expensive. So we sold that for $4,200. And when I made that comparison to buy that new, which is similar to our current platform, those are easily $1.6 to $1.8 million for those aerial fire trucks. Big difference. But the Newsminer made it sound like this new engine we have coming is a $1.8 million truck, which is far from it. Yeah, hopefully we don't see them get that expensive anytime soon. That's all I have. I can take questions.
Will you be doing a spring, summer open house like you have in the past?
We will. We don't have a set date. Traditionally, we've actually done it with the Cruising with Santa. It actually worked very well over the years. We actually made the decision this year, Cruising with Santa last year. It has gotten so big. I don't know how many of you were experienced that last year. But as the fire chief, I took a tour. I got away from our open house and went over to Cruising with Santa and realized how busy that parking lot was. And if there was an incident in that, it would have been hard for us dealing with our open house and that at the same time. So we purposely postponed it. And then with our knowing that the new engine is coming, hopefully after this week, we'll get a better idea of shipping times and when we'll see it here in the North Pole area. And then we'll schedule our open house sometime after because we'd like to showcase the new engine at the open house.
Well, if we're going to be doing a parade and a picnic, that might be perfect to get the parade folks to go over to the firehouse for training and a hot dog if they don't want to go over to the picnic. So that's another option.
Yeah, that time frame might work well.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Borough Representative report. Mr. Keller.
All right. So the borough meeting, last time, there was a good article put in the News Miner about it because we had quite the full house of the borough assembly because it talked about the Kinross war transplant. So I went there pretty open to see what happened. They actually had Kinross representatives there. I could see some of the corporate ones that I actually know personally, and then some of the employees give their testimonials. So it was quite interesting to hear some of the other side. The borough actually, some of them wanted to delay the voting on a resolution, but I offered my 2 cents of experience that no, this needs to happen now. Ken Ross has had a seat at the table for 2 years without anything. For okay, 1.5 years, 2 years. And we as a city of North Pole, just as advice was, we needed to say something. So they did pass that resolution. I did have some questions when I was there about the sales tax, if we raised that, and property tax. And I assured them that the rumor was true, that we did increase the sales tax, but we decreased. So I kind of pushed down on some of the hearsay.
And what was the hearsay?
Oh, they were just asking questions about, property tax, sales tax. That was basically it. Trying to sort all of that out. So whenever I go to a meeting, I try to glean something from it. Because not all meetings are great and energizing. And one of the things that I came across was when they were inviting people to share testimonies or to ask questions, the chair reminded them to be courteous and not contentious during citizens' comment. And that was like every single time he's like, okay, just to make sure that we're being courteous and not contentious. And I thought that phrase was really interesting. Maybe we should adopt that here at City of North Pole. Just a constant reminder of, okay, be cordial, courteous. I did have a question from the borough assembly. One of the members asked if door dashers are getting ticketed here in North Pole or not allowed to park in certain areas. And I just questioned them, and I started answering the question based on the lights that were on top. And they're like, no, that's not it. I was like, okay, then I have no idea what this is about. So, and I failed to email chief about this, but I couldn't see anything. Yeah. So, other than that, it was quite interesting. I didn't get home till like 1 o'clock that night because I wanted to stay till the end just to see how things were. So I'm grateful that our meetings don't last that long. And with that, I yield the rest of my time. Any questions?
I don't think I'm gonna stay there that long this Thursday night.
I just wanted, because they saved the last one for, they tried to pass changing the agenda so they would actually have the discussion on Ken Ross first, but that was overturned and they continued to have it at the end of the whole night. They even had 2 sections of public comment. So, yeah.
Well, it's up for reconsideration because Mr. Rottenmeier, I think it is, voted in the majority and then immediately moved to reconsider. So that'll be back on the agenda this Thursday night.
This Thursday night. All right. Well, I'm not the one representing us, so someone else can. Oh, hey, what are the chances? So anyways, and they made it a point to make sure that if we are there as representatives, we can comment on things pertaining to things that involve our city. So for instance, because we've already passed a resolution for the Kinross ore hauling, we could actually comment and advise or offer our 2 cents.
Big part in the debate even.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it was definitely a debate compared to what we have here. So, yeah. I look forward to hearing your report next time, Mr. Jacobson.
So do I. Thank you for that. Is there anything else any other reports? The clerk, I'm sorry.
You're fine. I know you get to me eventually. I like it went right to me. All right. Good evening, everybody. So I am super excited to announce that our website is done. So the migration is done. They are working on their internal QA process now, checking links and just making sure everything works the way that it's supposed to work and everything flows the way it's supposed to flow. So that should take a couple of weeks, 1 to 2 weeks. At the end of that, then they're going to give me a link to check it out. And we're also going to schedule the training, depending on how I feel about it. If I see a lot of updating and stuff, I might want to do the training on how to do the updates and stuff first before I roll it out. But I'm just going to kind of, I want to make sure that what we're putting out there is the best product that we have. And we've probably done some updates to the website since they started the migration. So I just want to make sure that that's good to go before, I give the okay to go ahead and roll it out. But that's awesome news. So we should have, a working website here in a week or two. So I'm super excited about that. As Mr. Wallace said, I've been doing the OSHA training with the Public Works and Utility guys today and tomorrow. Not really in my wheelhouse, but I figured, safety is safety, and the more awareness that we have, the better. And I wanted to thank everybody for their APOC stuff. Everybody got it in on time. We are awesome. Stormont said so. And that's it.
So, at the end of the month, we will have a live website, is what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Exciting. Thank you. Any other questions or for the clerk?
So with this training with the new website, will you be able to edit the website, post documents, or is that still the third party?
No, that's us.
That's you.
That's
Okay.
us. Yeah. And I'm going to get everybody involved. Like, there's going to be somebody from every department in that training. I want everybody to have the ability to go in and change their own stuff. I don't want to be responsible for it. But I also don't want to hold that information to myself. I think everybody, should play a part in updating their own stuff. I think it's just going to work better that way.
If we have continual updating too, that also helps our ratings on the search engines.
Yeah,
People are
absolutely.
searching.
Yep.
So if I send you a picture every week, that'll be okay.
Absolutely.
You have enough pictures?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have enough pictures?
I really would like some more. I mean, I think the more pictures, that we have, the better. I'm trying to take them, as I see them. I took some really pretty ones outside. Now it's all sunshiny and everything. But honestly, if anybody's holding on to any pictures on their computers or on their phones, send them to me. We'll find a home for them.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, ongoing projects reports. I don't think we have anything on the agenda. Moving on to unfinished business, which is none. And that takes us to our agenda itself, which happens to be old business. Item A, ordinance 23-04, an ordinance of the city of North Pole amending the harassment policy for the city of North Pole employees. Is there anyone in the public or online that would like to speak to this ordinance?
I mean, do we need to move?
Yeah, well, once we have public
Public
testimony,
comment, and
then
then
we
move.
will move so that we could take action. So, and I'll just consider you a staff report on that. So, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 2304?
So moved.
Moved by Welch,
Second.
seconded by
Clack.
Clack. Okay, so now we have discussion. And Ms. Clack, Mrs. Walsh, you wanted to go on the record with your changes.
Yes, I can do that. They're considered to be clerical, most of them. Just, I don't know if we need to go through all of them. An item under D, under the number 4, it's talking about being evaluated within the full context. And we're adding in which it takes place. And then a period, and then the next part is capital T following The following would be examples, however it is that is stated in there. So it's just, that's just kind of clerical. In several areas in F and G specifically that I noticed, we need to add a D to unwelcome. So it's that advances that are unwelcomed with a D on the end. So the clerk is going to find those and correct those. In section N, we were talking about changing that it's sexual abuse. We were talking about abuse and harassment.
Bullying
Uh,
and harassment.
Bullying and harassment, excuse me, that's right. So, and clerk has that in there, and then that should be it.
All right. Council members, discussion. We did have our police chief pass out some information for us to consider. And I'll go ahead and call him up here as part of our staff to talk about that. So Chief Dutra, if you'd like to come up and explain what you've given us.
So I've been here a long time. And I've seen a lot of shenanigans going on, and I think this policy is the best thing we've had to protect the employees since I can remember. We're well behind the curve on this, but K was a discussion that we'd had about the elected officials. There currently is nothing in this policy that would hold an elected official responsible for their behavior. And I think that this language that's here offers a remedy for the council if someone is actually found to be in violation of this policy against an employee, and that there is a way to penalize them, and what's in here is a $500 fine by the council, up to a $500 fine. So the council could say, yes, if this goes through the entire process and someone is found that they violated this and it's been sustained, and then the council receives it, then they could say, listen, this has to stop or else. And that's what this is about. It's just, it's all fine and dandy when you go through the motions for the employees, and we will all could be terminated if we violate this policy and we don't get our act together. But what protects us from a wayward council? And I've seen a lot of goofy things going on, that the citizens, the employees have been, had to deal with. And it seems like a small thing to do that tells the employees that you back this, you mean business, and you're serious. So that's what this discussion's kind of evolved with this particular K. K is meant to buy-in for the council, saying we believe in it and that we believe there should be some repercussions if a council member doesn't abide by these policies.
What I'm trying to do is follow the lettering, because somehow we jump around in the alphabet in our paperwork. So I just want to make sure that what happened here. So our H is reporting. Then we have I, types of corrective action. And
Must have
I
gotten a bad
don't see
batch.
anything until we
Huh?
get to.
He must have gotten a bad batch.
Oh.
To
Are you looking for that particular one he's talking about? It's up top, one your
I just see H, we go from H to
your
N.
yellow
It's right
highlight is
up.
on
Oh,
top.
the other side. Okay, there. I was like, I'm missing something here. So, okay, all right. So K in our document says confidentiality, and in the
I see.
information that we provided by Chief
Oh.
Dutra changes, inserts K as elected officials found guilty of any grievances in the list. J will be subject to fines by the council up to $500 personal fine, not city paid, and will be required to attend remedial training. Progressive discipline could include a recall election if behavior is not rectified. And then we have a new L, confidentiality, victim protection becomes N, and then false and bad claims goes from M to N. And we end with O and P. Have I got that all correct? All right, discussion.
I,
Mrs. Welch.
so, as I'm looking at his disciplinary action, why can't that just be an item underneath that so we don't have to reorder everything? Because if we're talking disciplinary action against employees, why can that elected official not, since they are not employees? Why can't we just add that underneath there as a item A, B, whatever, something like it, like the other ones are? Would make it a lot easier and it's all collected and it's not a new section. And another thing I just want to add to in the same thing, nowheres in this wonderful city of ours do we have a list of disciplinary actions. And that came into some of the stuff that happened a couple of years ago. People were misbehaving and they were told that they did and so on and so forth, but there were no, the only thing we had, they could be terminated, but there was nothing outlined specifically. And that might be something we have to do separately, come up with a list of things, first offense, second offense, whatever, of whether it's whatever it is, but we don't have that. We went through and did all the stuff about our fines for parking in the middle of a street or trash in your whatever. We have that all set up. We need to do something about that. And I don't think that might not be where this fits. Maybe this is not the place that we need to bring forth a thing where we actually come up with
I think it belongs in another section, but I agree with you. And I like your suggestion of leaving disciplinary action J as the heading and then making the first paragraph employees A and the second paragraph elected officials B. That way it just kind of inserts that. Any other discussion on that idea?
Not on the idea, but I'm just kind of curious why the $500 fine doesn't really make sense as far as I'm concerned. As far as if I did something, I should be, have the training or whatever, or be able to get a recall. But 500, we're not giving the employees a $500. Like, you messed up, there's $500. Why is it on the council to have a $500 fine? I don't think that's right or just for any reason.
Good question. Mrs. Clark, and then we'll have the chief.
I think to answer that question is because we're held to the public. Okay. And we need to be able to show the public that we're trying to rectify the misconduct that's happening within our council. Okay. With that, they're trusting us to do the right thing. So you shouldn't have a police officer pull you over for something you've done wrong, even though you know you've done it, or you were talking inappropriately to somebody here and you know it was inappropriate. Okay. And sometimes just getting a slap on the hand or please don't do it, and then you turn around and do it again is not enough. So some people have to get hit in the pocketbook in order to realize, stop doing it. Now, some places are higher than 500, depending on your community, as well as you're being recalled for the position. Okay. And that would be for those two reasons. Because we're living in a society now where people are not respecting rules and regulations. They're taking things for granted and thinking that nobody's going to say anything.
I also see that, like, in the judicial system, a judge will issue a fine to a court officer, such as an attorney who has misbehaved and done something they don't like. They will fine them.
Right.
But I see your point, because it's
I just
different
think
than.
it's like misplaced, just a $500 fine. I think it's misplaced in this whole harassment thing situation. A fine is just kind of weird in this situation for me personally. Even though I know we are held up to a higher standard, but a fine it just seems very odd for me.
Not a problem with that. Chief, and then Mrs. Welch.
I'll just clarify, the code already exists that you can be fined. I mean, it's a criminal offense to violate city code. So technically you can already be charged. I mean, technically we could charge you criminally, but we don't, this is meant as a way for the council to mitigate the issue before it gets to a point where it's out of control.
Right.
So this is just reaffirming what's already in the code. Yeah, so let's just say we, for instance, actually witnessed someone violating code. We can write them a citation for violating city code. So this just says that once there's been a adjudication and you've been sustained and the conduct's there and it's a first off, the council could say, well, we're not going to fine them. But if it comes up again, you can go, well, you did it again and now it's $100. We're going to fine you $100. So this is just saying that the council could come along and do it. You're not obligated to do that, but this gives you the room to put some teeth in it and tells the rest of the employees that you mean to stand behind what you're putting here for us to follow, right? But it also is still already in code, and I can't quote you the section, but $500 fine for any code violations is already in the code. So I
It's
hope
on
that
the
makes sense.
screen.
I'm sorry. Oh, there it is. Penalties for
That section,
Yeah.
for those of us who don't have microscopic
Do you want
vision.
me to read it? Yeah. Yeah.
2020?
A member of the city council or mayor who violates this chapter shall receive as a penalty any or all of the following: a civil fee of not more than $500, 2, public censure, 3, a restitution of damages sustained by the city, including legal fees, 4, a call for the resignation of public official.
And a call for resignation.
Correct.
Okay. Mrs. Welch.
So just to liken that to, you say, well, they're not going to find the employee. An employee can be, some of the disciplinary things that can happen is, for example, when they don't do what they're supposed to, you can say you are no longer a sergeant, you are now a patrol officer. So they actually, or you go 2 weeks out on pasture somewhere and sit around and you are out without any money. So yes, the employees can definitely be even higher level of penalties than just the $500, which of course could be, if you keep doing it, you can get another 500, another 500, another 500, like that. I don't know if you could say, hey, you can't be here at the next meeting. You're going to be out to pasture for the next meeting. That's whatever we get for a fee for that. You wouldn't have that.
Right.
That would be something besides the actual monetary, but I don't have a problem with it being in there, because again, it's up to the council to censure our own, right? As if I read this right, if that person does not take heed of what it is that we're trying to tell them, hey, we don't want you to yell at the chief every day and bully the chief all the time, and if you don't stop doing that, then we can go up. So
Melissa, could you put up that list again? I think I've got some compromise language that might work here. So it says, again, Mr.
Keller.
Melissa, can you blow that
Superman.
up a little bit? Melissa, can
Yeah.
you blow that up a little bit?
So
I think that would help Mr. Jacobson.
me, especially with these things in between. Plus ought to do it.
Okay, now we just have to scroll up. I have no idea. Oh, keep going, hearing. Then should be penalties coming up.
there it is.
Okay, right there. All right. A civil fine of not more than $500, public censure, restitution of damages sustained by the city, including legal fees, and a call for resignation of the public official. So what I would suggest that we could change the language to say will be subject to fines by the city council, and not reference up to personal fine not paid, not city paid. and be required to attend remedial training. Progressive discipline could include public censure and request for resignation. We, I think as a council, cannot initiate a recall. I think that's a matter of citizens to go through the recall process. So I don't think that language should be included in their recall election if the behavior is not rectified. We could just say public censure and request for resignation if behavior is not rectified, and delete a recall election. Does that help you with your?
I'm completely on board with this. I just needed I'm like, why is $500? This doesn't make sense. It's just like I came out of nowhere, but now it makes more sense.
So fines by the council, and we'll just take out the up to 500 personal fine, not city paid. And then the other language, and then adding progressive discipline could include public censure and request for resignation if behavior is not rectified, deleting a recall election.
Could we add the reference of the coding to the end of that as well?
Can we just use that section underneath
there?
it? Can we just use that number, whatever that was, that I couldn't see?
Pull all of that
And
out.
say, and then just say that whole, we don't need that in here. We can just see public officials found guilty of any grievances.
Elected officials found guilty of any of the grievances listed in J will be subject to 2.4.380 penalties.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then we don't add anything to it.
I
it's
like that.
already in code.
I like that.
Look at us come together.
We can do this.
Don't need me.
False.
Yes, we do.
Oh, it's a group effort. I like working together. Will be subjected to penalties in, and we take out the second subject in 2.1438380.
Awesome.
That's very clean.
Do we have a kind of like a clause of, say, somebody's violated 3 times, or they just keep on paying the $500? What's that?
It'll go
Is there more of a?
Well, as a body, we are admonished to govern and police ourselves. And so it's up to us what our tolerance level is. I would think if someone is harassing, bullying other council members or employees, and we don't up the consequences, and this person just keeps doing it over and over, we're not doing our jobs to stop this individual. So, but again, it takes the will of the council to publicly censure another member, to publicly ask him to resign, to ask them for compensation for legal fees, because we've had to pay our city attorney to handle this. So it's up to us how many times and what we want to hit them with right away. So do we have a motion on that?
I will motion for our policy for bullying and harassment 2.36291.
Second.
Well, I think the motion should be to the changes that we just made. So
Oh,
it
okay.
would be item J, disciplinary action, inserting the letter A for employees. The second paragraph B, and then read elected officials found guilty of any of the grievances listed in J will be subject to penalties in 2.41.380, and everything else is stricken.
I motion for everything that you just verbally said for me. I thank you very much.
Okay, moved by Clack and seconded by
Second by Will.
Welch. Okay, sorry. It's the
That's
teacher
truly
in
a
me.
house mouthful.
Mrs. Clack, you just learned to say so motioned.
Yeah,
You
so
don't have to say
motioned.
so motioned.
All right, discussion. Okay, Madam Clerk, going to call the vote on this amendment.
Sure. Mr. Kromer,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes,
Mrs. Clock.
Yes,
anyone wish to change your vote? Seeing none, this amendment passes. Any further amendments or changes to this document?
Jacobson, we did tell the clerk to change all the places that had just the sexual harassment to add so there was
Yeah, I think we just found the one, I think we
Harassment
found the one, our,
harassment and bullying was what we wanted it to say everywhere, right? So.
well, only in that one area, I think. I think,
only
I
in that
think
one because I
that was
believe you
in
and I went through
item
and found it
N
everywhere else.
two to prevent bullying and harassment.
Because that's coming
I
out.
think
If
all
you
the
go
other,
further on it, it
just
just
sexual
says
harassment
complete
was taken out and
harassment
it just should
bullying
say,
training. It doesn't have.
but if
harassment.
you
Just,
just-
just as a,
yeah,
as a clerical
if
thing.
as you're cleaning this up, Melissa, if you happen to see other places where we've singled out and just said sexual harassment instead of just harassment and bullying, if you could just fix that. Because our concept of harassment includes sexual and racial. They don't have to be separated out, except when you have that paragraph F, racial harassment and I think it's another one. I can't remember where it's at. My papers are all mixed up, so I have a hard time following it now. It's all over the place. Any other discussion?
Call a question?
Okay, the question's been called on the ordinance as amended. Madam Clerk?
All right, Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock,
Yes,
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Kromer.
Yes.
Anyone wish to change their vote? This ordinance passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for your collaborative work on this effort. And hopefully, as we discover other parts of our code that's lacking, as Mrs. Welch referred to, that we will start tackling those one by one. We now move on to new business, a resolution 2305, a resolution of the North Pole City Council to donate engine 24 worth $1.8 million.
and it
Yeah,
Dairy Queen.
So this resolution is before you, is in city code, as we've mentioned, that our normal policy is that it go to auction. City code 4.19.010 permits the council by resolution for us to actually donate the apparatus to a quasi-government, charitable, civic or nonprofit organization. So that's what we're doing here. Part of the packet that I had the clerk include was all of my documentation for the committee that we'll put together to actually evaluate applicants and make the decisions. So I wanted to make sure all of that information was to each of you. It has, you know, the different voting members of the committee that'll be in there. And then also kind of some of the requirements and eligibility requirements for the communities. You know, we definitely want to make sure it goes to a good home, and but we want to make sure that they can provide that good home. So, you know, having some basic requirements that they can afford to maintain it. have heated storage for it, and, and then obviously their justification of need would be a big one on that. So I think we've talked this issue enough. I don't know if you need more information from me, but I can definitely take any questions if you have it.
Council member,
This looks great.
any public members or online or present? Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second,
Moved by Welch, seconded by Clark to adopt resolution 2023-05, a resolution of the North Pole City Council to donate engine 24
And we're on
and all the subsequent.
the header, right? All of us.
Oh, yeah,
That's
sub-sponsor.
God.
Co-sponsors.
Yeah, I can't think of-
Co-sponsor, please.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, we are adding all of the council members present as co-sponsors. Thank you, Mr. Cromer. I am bad
that
on names.
530 is really
Tonight.
kicking you, isn't
I
it?
had to use my cheat sheet. Okay, where is it? Cromer, there you go.
Mr. Chair, that
Sergeant
530 is kicking you, isn't it?
Hmm?
That 530 is kicking you, isn't it?
All right, so did we vote?
Call the question?
Call the question? There you go.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Kromer,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock.
Yes.
Anyone wish to change the vote? Resolution 2023-05 passes. We now move on to North Pole Fire Department request to accept grant funds. Chief Heineken.
Yep, so we were notified that once again this year, we've received the VFA grant, which is the Volunteer Fire Assistant Grant. It's a state forestry wildland firefighting type of grant. We've been awarded $6,000 to purchase two wildland fire pumps. Specifically on our 1993 Chevy Squad pickup truck has the wildland skid unit that goes in the back of that truck every year. The pump a couple of years ago actually failed on us and was out of service for the last couple of years. So we've improvised and put just a pump we had on it, but it's not a fire rated pump. It doesn't have the correct pressure mostly and lacking in GPM. So that's what spurred us to look for grants to replace these pumps. So we're actually going to purchase two, one for that unit, and then the second would be a mobile pump that we'd be able to use wherever we needed. If we needed to set it up on a remote site where we pulled water out of a slough or a gravel pit, something like that. So this is a grant. There is a grant match. So $850 of the expense will come out of the fire department's equipment outlay budget, which we've budgeted for. So this is just a request to accept the grant money.
Questions of the chief? Is there a motion to approve the grant acceptance of the grant funds?
Move to accept the acceptance of the grant fund.
Moved by Keller, seconded by Welch. Discussion? Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
All right, Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock,
Yes.
Mr. Kromer,
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Anyone wish to change their vote? Congratulations, chief. You've
Thank
got
you all.
$6,000. We now move on to 13, item 13, new business C, request to transition Public Works part-time employee position to full-time. Mr. Wallace.
Again, as discussed previously, this is in the best interest of the city. This involves transitioning one position that's currently part-time up to 32 hours a week to a full-time 40-hour week position. Again, as described before, there's a significant amount of requirements for Public Works based on overtime and some of the other things. This makes sense for the city and should reduce the overall stress on the overall requirements for that department. And I'll answer any questions if needed.
Yes.
I just clarify the hours difference from what they are doing now to,
32 to 40.
oh, 8 hours a week?
No, but it is but it is a full-time position. So,
Okay, with
so it has
benefits
with
and
benefits.
benefits
Again, it's
conferred.
a full-time member of the city staff.
Thank you.
Mrs. Welch?
What difference is it gonna make on your budget?
On our budget, actually none, because we anticipated this at the beginning of the budget cycle. So it's already been budgeted for, and actually we have not paid for that full-time position up until we are looking at 1 May as the start date for this time. So we've actually saved some money on our budget because we haven't had this position full-time. So.
Madam Clerk, is there anyone online or in the audience who wants to testify to this?
Nope. There's not.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we are on item new business C. We need a motion to approve the transition of Public Works part-time position to full-time.
Okay, and that's on pages 35 to 36.
Yeah, we already had a report, so it's just now time for a city council motion, and then we can discuss.
Okay, and there's no one online
No.
from the community. Could someone make a motion? It's an action item.
So moved.
Moved by Welch.
Second.
Second by Clark. Sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead, take, you've
Okay.
got it. You can keep the gavel. if you want.
All right, discussion.
Call the question?
All right, question's been called, Madam Clerk.
All right, Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes,
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
and Mayor Welch.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, and if you'll indicate that I arrived at 9 o'clock, that would be fine. Thank you.
Our last item of business is new business D, the North Pole SCCS.
Oh, City Services,
What is it?
City Services.
Oh, North Pole City Services. I'm not used to city services. I'm used to Public Works. North Pole City Services request to accept drainage survey grant. Mr. Wallace.
Yes, we were notified last month that we did receive a $46,000 grant through Department of Environmental Conservation, ADEC. It is federal funds, but it is intended to do a survey to address the chronic flooding within the city of North Pole. We have $46,000. There's no matching requirement, and we recommend that the council accept this money. This will be the first part of our assessing what to do about the issue. We anticipate that infrastructure changes will be required, but we just don't know yet until we do this survey.
Questions of Mr. Wallace?
I have, Mr. Wallace, do you know if there's any strings attached to this acceptance of the grant?
Based not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Again, this is money to address a critical key issue for the city of North Pole. It was a fit for grant money that they had, so we were in the sort of the right place at the right time to get this grant.
Thank you.
I think this is a good idea. When I was mayor and we had a city engineer, every time I asked about drainage and what we could do to prevent flooding, the engineer basically his response was, our community is very flat. If you want one edge of town to drain to the other edge, you'd have to start at a very high and then have a trench that's 8 to 10 feet at the other end, and that would be a hazard. So hopefully this kind of study will come up with something better than that kind of response that I got.
That's the hope, yes.
Move to accept the requests from the North Pole City Services to accept the survey grant.
Second. Question? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
All right, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
And Mr. Mayor, we're at council comments, so I
who
turn
goes
this over to
first,
you.
Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Welch.
Well, I'm just looking forward to spring moving the about 7 foot wide and about 4 foot hard pack of snow that came down from my roof on both sides. I consider myself very blessed. I had just had both dogs out in the back, brought them back inside, and my grandkids and son were about to arrive on the front end, and the snow came down in between those two events, and it is hard packed. So if you have houses that do that, know that if you have children, little pets, big pets out there, or yourself out there, you can get killed. And it has happened in this area. So just please be aware, if you have roofs that will shed, this is the time they do it. I have a metal roof. It probably shed earlier than most shingled roofs do, but just be aware, because even if you're right there, you may not have enough time to be able to dig those people out of there or pets out of there before they expire. So with spring comes other dangers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cock.
I just want to thank our committee for working really hard on the harassment and bullying code that we've done. And I want everybody to have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Keller.
I'm grateful it's not 1 o'clock and we're still here. No, I am extremely elated to welcome the spring weather, the beautiful sunshine, the warmer air. It's definitely a welcome brace. So be careful with the slick roads that will be thawing and freezing overnight, to all of us. With that, hopefully we can use the springtime to rejuvenate our own selves and look around and see if there's any help around in the community. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
I just want to thank everybody on the council for giving me a little clarification of, why something was on the agenda. And I just want to wish everyone a happy spring, and Easter is coming, so can't wait to get my little girl out there and take her Easter egg hunting, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for a good meeting tonight, and it's good to have the mayor back. Can't wait to hear from him during his comments. I did pass out earlier to everyone a survey that shows that Alaska's working age population has declined since the 2013 peak, and recovery appears dim. What they're saying is also that we've had an out migration during that same time period. And the tragic part is that those who are in the prime for working and sustaining our community are the ones that are leaving. And it's those of us with the gray hairs retiring that are still here, which creates a huge pressure on sustaining local economies. So I think as North Pole, we have a lot to offer and share to keep people here. And I think we should use this year and to see what we can do to make North Pole stand out, so people will want to stay here and not move away. As part of our committees for economic development, our committee for housing, our committee for events. I think all of these things that we have going here makes people not feel so lonely and want to go someplace else where there's more things happening. We don't have big attractions like a movie theater, a bowling alley, things like that. So we need to make up for it in other ways. So as council members, that's something that we should be asking our neighbors and our residents, what are some things that would help them or they'd want, and we could kind of look at them and see if they're viable or not. I will be going to the Borough Assembly meeting this Thursday, so I will be contributing to the discussion on the man show or trucking plan, and also thanking them for the Westcott Pole repairs and upgrades. And again, I just encourage anyone who can attend the Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce luncheon tomorrow at the Wedgwood Doors open 11:30, meeting starts at noon. The guest speaker is the CEO of Contango Ore, who is the owner of the Mancho Ore in Kinross, Alaska. And with that, my comments are closed. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. And thank Pro Tem for standing in on such short notice. And I didn't know so many people expected me to be at this meeting, even though I explained to Mayor Bryce Ward last Wednesday, you do know that's right in the middle of a council meeting. They seem to have forgot that at the borough for some reason. And I will say that it was attended pretty well, but it wasn't packed. And it was hard for people to see the slideshow, but I took good notes, and there will be a slideshow coming our way that I'll have the clerk send out to you, but I'll give you the highlights that I collected. First, from Colonel Surrey, the garrison commander of Fort Wainwright. He said that currently they have in their military housing, which includes their barracks and all, they say they have a 98% occupancy rate. The barracks right now are 88% composed of E1 through E5s. So that's privates through sergeants. And they'll go back to being a full barracks by the end of this decade. They do have a new barracks that's breaking ground this May for 252 more soldiers. So they're actually rebuilding for the older barracks. Traditionally in the Army, a third of families live in the community. The exception to that is Fort Wainwright. Right now, 55% of Fort Wainwright lives in the community. They told us that the 03s to 06s, so those are captains to full colonels, are paying out of pocket, almost out of their own pocket, $1,000 per month, above and beyond what their housing allowance is. So that's what they're paying above what the Pentagon DOD will let them have. Where they're going to build some new things, new housing when they do, and this is still with the Chief of Staff of the Army, what they let us know is it's going to be determined where and how much is going to be built, but approximately somewhere around Birchwood in 2028, because it'll be ceded back to the U.S. Army Alaska, the Birchwood home, so that'll become their property. So that's the Army's report, and as Colonel Surrey said, we're not going to get smaller. Matter of fact, he's almost guaranteeing us that we're going to get a larger community at Fort Wainwright. When we go to what Eielson has, they only have 2% of their housing that's move-in ready. 60 dorm spaces will be built by the end of August. Could have as many as 120 units a year for housing that they'll need in the following 3 years, 2025, 26, and 27. So that's 360 more homes. The non-concurrent travel that we hear about, so far 500 families have made successful moves here. Only 6 families came alone without their spouse or family. So six airmen came without their spouse or family. And some of that was by design. It's like, we're not going to pull the kids out of the middle of the school year. There's 2 times a year they move, June and January. So you can imagine if you're one of the persons that has a January orders, you say, well, I would let my kids stay back in the school year and they'll come later. One of the things that the Air Force is saying is the KC-135s. You've seen a lot about that. As a matter of fact, you saw where Colonel Alvarez, we call him Pumbaa, was talking to the school district last week. You could have read it in Wednesday's paper. But when the KC-135s come, they say right now that's 234 personnel. They use a factor of 0.08. So they don't say a face is a space. They multiplied times 0.08. But they said the truth of it is it's more like 270 personnel will come here. So that's 215 more homesteads. But what they're looking at is 4 building seasons all the way through 27, that they'll really think they're going to need 350 spaces, 350 personnel will be assigned here. And if you multiply that factor, that's 280 units that they'll need in the next 4 building seasons. So that's quite something. They say the one thing they're having the hardest is to see what the upcoming demand is going to be for affordable housing here after the year 2026. There's a big question mark there. So with that in mind, one person that I'll be meeting tomorrow, and Danny, you might be meeting with him too. And he is Chad Stovall from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And he is the Alaska Field Office's director. So he's up here for 2 more days. He will not be here at the home show, but his companion, she'll be up here. But the thing is, he tells me there's a lot of money that can go through the Department of Housing and Development that can be repurposed for some of the things that we need in this city that has to deal in any way that is tangible with housing, they can get it approved. So we'll see if we can do that sometime tomorrow, okay? And with that, I'm happy spring is here. Spring has sprung. I shaved my face down to defy the cold weather to come back out again. So with that, Madam Clerk, thank you for the remarks, Council.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I would say that's the second.
Nobody could read the slides. Nobody could read the slide. Yeah,
Why didn't you
because
have that already-
because
Why doesn't you have that already figured out?
that's great. She was apologizing, the other person apologized. Nobody knew. There's so many